Yeah, it's in Siberia where that airburst occurred. Chenko. This is the region. The lake you see is the center, and you can see how barren it is around it. It didn't form a crater because it didn't hit the ground. It actually exploded in the atmosphere just due to the temperature differential. And what blasted away the forest and what created this depression was actually just the force of the blast. Tunguska asteroid. These are photographs that were taken of the forest around it. Over, I think, 3 million trees were just blown to the ground, and the direction of the trees are all away from that lake. So whatever produced the lake actually blasted the trees down around it. Like you took a brush and just combed them down. This is normally what we think of when you think about asteroid impacts, but that's much larger than an asteroid. There are meteors that are so large that they create large trails, you see here, and you can see them during the daytime. Smaller meteorites or meteors you wouldn't be able to see during the daytime, only at night. But there are large ones, fireballs as they call them, that you can see during the daytime. This is a photograph of a fireball. I saw one when I was about 12. I was taking out the garbage with my brother. It was probably 10 at night. And our driveway was really long. We're taking out to the street, and we were holding either side of the garbage can. We were walking toward the street, and then the ground in front of us just turned orange, some light behind us. And by the time we looked up, it wasn't behind it, it was just overhead. And it was just this big ball of orange fire that was just going through the atmosphere, and you could see big chunks coming off behind it. And it was moving extremely fast. Within like 2 seconds, it was already over the horizon, headed toward the west. And when told my mom, I don't think my mom believed me. But the next day, they were talking about this big fireball they had spotted over Waco. So evidently it had gotten closer.
You didn't know what it was then, right?
I knew it was some kind of meteor, but I didn't know. I wouldn't have called it a fireball. It was pretty obvious.
You became a scientist.
No, I'll show you the reason I became a scientist. No, it's not my wife. I found this fossil when I was about 8 years old, and I thought it was a fossilized shark head. And that was really amazing to find a fossilized shark head. But now I know it's a steinkorn. It's just the mud inside of a clamshell. Clamshell's washed away, but you still have the mud that was inside of it. It looks like a shark head, though. You can see like the vein in the neck. And so I really got into fossils, and that led me. The reason I'm an archaeologist, my first arrowhead I found, Cedar Bayou, I was about 12. So I learned geology and history. Small objects like that can have a big impact, especially on kids. But anyway, that's shark head, fossilized shark head. That's the reason I got it. So this is what it would look like as moving across the sky. Fireball. The asteroid that exploded over Siberia, this is a model sort of depicting what would have happened. The asteroid, when it entered the lower atmosphere, would actually explode and would create a percussive type of envelope around it, and it would be that the shock waves that actually hit the Earth below it. Something like this. So it's exploding here, but this is where the damage is done. It's where that shock wave intersects the surface. And so it would be intense destruction, but it would be over a small area. You can imagine if the large asteroid actually hit the Earth, then it would create a much larger area of devastation. When it explodes in the upper atmosphere, it's more intense devastation, but it's in a very localized area. Right, this is another model of how it may have looked. If you could stand in Siberia in 1910 and look up and see it, it might have looked something like this. It's in Siberia, so there's not a lot of people around to see it.
Would you been able to tell anybody about it?
Well, if you're outside the blast zone, you probably would. If you were inside, probably a tree would fall on you or something, so tough luck. I don't know. I think the blast area is about 20 miles from one side to the other, but I don't know. I imagine there would have been a sonic boom within 40 or 50 miles. When Mount St. Helens erupted, I think people heard it 50 miles or 60 miles away.
How are you feeling about that lightning in that picture? Is that just a dramatic effect or what?
No, I suspect that that's part of their model, since they put it in there, that whenever you have the explosion, the upper atmosphere, it would have created electrical potentials in the air masses. It would,
From the heat.
yeah. I went to a talk a few weeks ago about there's a tell in north of the Dead Sea called Tal el Hammam, and the guy who's excavating it thinks that it's Sodom. And when he was excavating, he found a thick layer of ash, about a meter thick, black ash, and he found pieces of pottery that had been turned to glass. And you know, intense heat will turn pottery into glass, but he found that the carbon and the oxygen or carbon molecules had been separated some way. I don't know what the terminology is, but supposedly you have to have extremely high temperatures to be able to separate the carbon molecules whenever it turns to glass. And so he says that the only thing that could have done that would have been something like an airburst. And so in his model, he believes that the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah probably was a type of airburst. Could have even been a comet or an asteroid that God sent into the atmosphere and exploded right there, which would have created the devastation that would be very localized just to Sodom, but it would be very intense. And in his talk, he said that that the term in Hebrew that's translated sulfur there actually can mean lightning. And so he believes that it's a reference to lightning, which you do see in association with the airburst. So it's interesting theory. If you're looking for a phenomenon, an earthly phenomenon that could cause a devastation and have, you know, the same sort of qualities that you see in the narrative, the airburst is a good choice.
Вовремя ты искал заходи. Вот нахуй открыл, говорит, вообще. Посмотри, взрывается все там.